Yeah, it looks good now.
Looks good. We're off to the races.
We are off to the races, my friend.
To the races. Good stuff.
Speaking of races, I yesterday you had your nice, delicious ice cold Coca-Cola.
We got 2 nice ice cold Coca-Colas.
Yeah, from our leftover 2-liter from Thanksgiving Day.
Oh, wow.
I went to the bodega, picked up a 2-liter of
Nothing better
Coca-Cola, classic Coca-Cola. None of that diet shit.
None of that zero shit.
Yeah. Fuck off.
Fuck off.
I want real Coca-Cola. Sugar.
Yeah. It's a secret, hidden, brilliant recipe. If you alter it in any way, it's compromised.
Exactly. So anyway, yesterday, not to reveal that we sometimes pre-record these, yesterday was Black Friday.
Yes.
And you had your lady over. You were watching a film on our new big flat screen, Ultra HD, high definition, 55-inch Samsung television.
That's right. My new 55-inch
Yes.
Samsung
Well,
television.
it's in the living room when you move out, and we never speak to each other again in a few years.
Yeah, exactly.
But for now, I think it's all ours.
Well,
So anyway, you were watching a film.
maybe log into something. Mark your territory.
The Muppets Christmas Carol.
Great picture.
And I was in my room alone, sad.
Okay, well, you were more than invited.
No, I know. I was just making a joke. I had some.
But you were
stuff.
sad.
No, well, that's no joke.
Yeah. We're going to get into that.
Yeah. No, I had some stuff to do. But anyway, you guys were out here, and then I walked out here, and I saw you two had a nice cup of hot cocoa, hot chocolate.
We did, yeah.
And I said to myself, wow, that sounds delicious.
I think I know where this is going.
I would like some hot chocolate.
Right.
And you guys were out. I go, I'm going to get some hot chocolate. I'm going to watch Good Burger 2.
Yeah.
So I look at the pantry.
All gone.
All the hot chocolate gone. All the places, the hot chocolate, it's been ransacked.
It's done. This is the last cup.
Yeah.
It's the last cup.
So I go, well, luckily, that's the beauty of living in a place like New York City. Mm-hmm. There's a bodega on every corner.
There certainly
and
is.
we have a favorite bodega. It's on our corner.
It's in our building.
It's in our building. And I walk over there. I go, hello, my good man. Do you have hot chocolate?
He said, hey, Trent. Welcome back to your friendly bodega.
I go, hello, my good man. Do you have hot chocolate? He goes, over there. Mm-hmm. And I go over there. Now, we're all familiar with Swiss Miss.
Yeah, sure.
I believe that's what you had, Swiss Miss.
That is what we had.
Now, they had Swiss Miss hot chocolate with the little tiny marshmallows. Everyone's favorite treat.
It comes with it in there?
Yes, a double pack.
Wow. Okay, wow.
Now, I considered that, but then I looked up.
Oh, my God.
And I saw something I've never seen before. A product, it's probably been around for years.
Okay.
It has to have been around for years. Because I don't think they're putting this on the shelf in 2023.
Okay,
they're not debuting this on the shelf in 2023.
And what is this?
Well, I have it here, my friend.
Wow.
Abuelita hot chocolate.
Abuelita.
Mexican style instant hot chocolate mix. Now,
Mexican hot chocolate.
Yes. Now
by Nestle.
Nestle.
That's important.
It is by yes.
Wow.
And it's got a little a lady on here that can only be described as an abuelita.
They got a little old abuelita. She looks like Mrs. Claus.
She does, and she's got a
bit of a twist.
A mug and a saucer, and she's holding up, and she's got a grin on her face. Now, how this woman slipped through the cracks?
Yeah, wow.
In the year 2023, I don't know how she hasn't been banished from the boxes.
Yeah, because they got Aunt Jemima.
They got Aunt Jemima. They got
Land O'Lakes.
Uncle Ben. Ready Rice. He's gone.
The butter Indian out.
The Native American, yes.
Native American.
They got rid of the cream of wheat man. But Abuelita is still staying strong, and we're rooting for her.
We're rooting for her. She's the last horseman of the past.
And I had some of this, and it is good. Now it's a little different than regular hot chocolate. So if you're expecting regular hot chocolate, you may be disappointed. But I was in the mood to try something new, and how can you say no
To
a
Abulita.
face like this? You have to say CCC.
No, that's right.
And that's what I did, and I had some hot chocolate.
Well, if they ever take her off the box, that flavor quality is sure to go down.
It absolutely will.
Just like it did with Aunt Jemima's,
Aunt
just like it
Jemima.
did with the butter, everything, the quality
Aunt Jemima, it
tanked.
doesn't even exist anymore. It's Old Pearl Milling Company.
Yeah, they went back to the 1840s name before they were like, let's get a logo or a mascot, obviously.
Yeah.
And they went back to Old Pearl. It went back to like the East India Trading Company before they put Aunt Jemima on it. Yeah, it didn't make any sense.
It stinks. But this is great, and we're all rooting for it, and I hope she sticks around for the rest of my life.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, definitely pulling for
Abuelita.
Abuelita. The Mexican hot chocolate lady. There's no other way to put it.
Muy delicioso.
No other way to put it. Mexico, front of the show, on the map.
On the map?
It's on the map. We got this we're back with our beautiful map of North America. Just a world-class map of a world-class continent. One of the best continents, I think, probably. Pretty good. Only 3 players on this continent. You only got 3 countries. There's no other continent. Well, I guess Australia. That's just a one-man show. Antarctica is a bit of a one-man show as well.
That is true.
But I think everybody gets a little Antarctica, right? Doesn't every country have like a slice of Antarctica?
You'd like to think so.
I feel like there's a lot of flags down there. It's kind of everybody's. I feel like if I go there, I could live there. No one would stop me. It's really kind of up for grabs still.
You could live there, nobody would stop you, but you would have to wear a winter coat.
You certainly would, but not for long.
Yes, you're right. Not for long.
Not for long. That's going to be a hot piece of land soon. You're going to be going to war over
We
that
should
place.
get in early on that. Maybe buy some
We should
land.
get in
out there.
early.
Well, anyway, welcome back to another episode of the Echo Chamber podcast with Joe and Trent. I, of course, am Trent.
And I, therefore, am Joe.
And this is the only podcast where 2 comedians read the Wall Street Journal because one of us, and we'll never tell which one, gets it for free at work.
That's right. And we're back today with a few fresh articles from the Wall Street Journal. Now, Trent, tell me, what are we going to be hearing about today?
Well, Joe, our first story is about ambulances in rural America.
I hear one right now.
Well, this isn't rural America.
No, it's
and
not.
if you lived in rural America, you may not hear one because there's a serious lack of them.
Oh, wow. Well, this one's getting closer. I think it's about to run into the room. Well, that's interesting. We are also going to be hearing about, speaking of small towns, it's from the Wall Street Journal. Officials say, good luck. I'm done.
Okay.
Civil servants dramatically quit in public meetings. We're going to hear all about that from all over the country.
Interesting.
Things are going well.
yeah. Just when you think things can't get worse, you read the Wall Street Journal, and turns out it does.
Yeah. What else do we got today?
Oh, well, I only have 2 today.
That's right. Well, I'll start first with that story. But
Yes. We have Argentina. They've elected a new wild-haired, crazy president.
Right on. Argentina, are they on the map? No,
I don't know.
think so. They didn't quite make the map. There's going to be 2 more stories. We're going to hear about the CEO and co-founder of WeWork, who recently declared for bankruptcy. Their shares are worth near $0.
Oh.
Well, he's going to make out just fine.
Good.
He's going to make out.
Thank God. I was very worried about
Yeah, I was worried too.
the creator of WeWork.
He's going to make out just fine. We're also going to hear about some new research suggests that loneliness is tied to death risk.
Well, fuck.
Studies says fine.
Well, fuck my ass and
yeah.
hell.
So big trouble for my co-host Trent. But first, Trent, we are going to hear this story from the Wall Street Journal. Now, this is a phenomenon that's been happening all over the country. Again, the headline here, officials say, quote, good luck, I'm done. Civil servants dramatically quit at public meetings.
Yeah.
It's kind of living out everybody's fantasy. They even talk about that. So Frank Hibbard, a longtime public servant, prides himself on not being a quitter. But after disagreeing with council members that spending on a new city hall in Clearwater, Florida should be a top priority, he not only quit his job as mayor, he did so in dramatic fashion. Quote, in good conscience for my family, for my own health, and for other things, I can't remain the mayor, he said at a city council special meeting in March. During his impromptu remarks seen on video, Kathleen Beckman, a council member, and the city's then vice mayor gasps in disbelief, then sit open-mouthed next to him before taking off her glasses to process the bombshell. Call it the ultimate mic drop moment. Shout out to Matt Rife, friend of the show.
Friend of the show. Welcome anytime.
Welcome anytime.
We'll pay him a cool $300 if he comes on the phone.
More there to come. Hibbard is part of a wave of local elected and appointed government officials and public sector employees who are abruptly quitting their jobs in the middle of public meetings throughout smaller towns across America. Public servants who quit say they are frustrated with fighting over spending priorities, leftover resentments from the date to the pandemic, and increasing bitter complaints from citizens on social media and in person. Continued staffing shortages don't help, and their pay is still relatively low. Versila Hart tossed her keys at town supervisor Jerry Adams in Rives Township, Michigan, and stormed out of a meeting in late August amid questions about her performance. I'm done, she said.
Here's the keys.
Good luck. You've got no clerk.
Wow.
A week later, Hart had a change of heart and rescinded her resignation. Quote,
It's like a Seinfeld episode.
Quote, I have returned to my position as clerk with the vision of bringing the community together and creating transparency. And then they go on to talk about another guy who quit and another guy who quit, all publicly.
Wow.
These people are living out the fantasy of many who wish they could quit with the, quote, take this job and shove it speeches.
I ain't working here no more.
Good luck. You're on your own. The town officials' announcements, usually in the heat of the moment, are often doubly public, as many of these meetings are recorded and broadcast on television and the internet.
Yeah, they'll live on forever.
Do you think that factors into the decision to do it? There's like a small part of you that's like...
They're hoping to go viral, because that's everybody's dream now.
Yeah, true.
Is to go viral.
It's to go viral. By one means, whether it's burning down a small town and desperate for leadership in Michigan. And you go, good luck finding a new clerk. Yeah, because you can do it and then just go back to work because, listen, they can't find another clerk. So.
Right, yeah.
So you pretty much quit every meeting and then just show back up on Monday.
Yeah,
like
like
old Seinfeld.
Yeah, like George Costanza.
That's right. In Sangerville, Maine, population less than 2,000, Kenny Bell announced his wife's resignation as town clerk on her behalf at the September meeting of the select board. Quote, I want you guys to know Lorna is done, he said. Good luck. Because you've got a few things due in a couple weeks that nobody knows how to do.
Wow.
Lorna Bell didn't attend. Kenny Bell said that telling
Lorna Bell? I think it's a cookie.
Lorna Bell?
It's a type of cookie.
Oh, I don't know that. That must be one of your little brands.
I think so.
Kenny Bell said telling the board to shove it felt great. You don't have to tell me. I believe it. Quote, there were a few other things that I would have liked to said, but that I would have liked to have said, but I couldn't put across without swearing. And knowing that the select board meeting was taped, I didn't want to be on the record swearing, he says.
Oh, that's nice.
He did slip and said pretty shitty at one point in the meeting.
Jeez, well, you think you know a guy. Wow, that's wild.
Yeah.
Now, have you ever quit a job in a flamboyant way?
I walked out of one, but quietly, not with a big speech, but it was middle shift. I was maybe an hour and a half into my shift. I worked at a country club pool. And you'll never believe this, as a lifeguard.
Oh, a good job to walk out quietly on.
yeah. I was, and you'll never believe this, the least qualified lifeguard in the history, maybe of the country. And I'm not going to divulge any names, but I had a friend who's the assistant manager of the place, and even though I did not pass my swimming test, she said, don't worry, I'll get you on.
Oh, God.
And then a kid started drowning our first day, and me and my friend both...
You were like, that's it, I'm out.
Well, his mom jumped in and saved him before we could get to him. And she goes, thanks for nothing.
Wow.
It was, to be fair, it was on the other guy's area, not mine.
Sure.
But but the last day, and this was a complete, I was 19, I was high every day. We would drink on the job. This girl would sneak in fucking Malibu and pour it into drinks. And it was a very small pool. But anyway, so we had to clean the whole place one day. The people coming in, big party, whatever. It was like going to be a hell day. And it was towards the end of the summer. It was a summer job anyway. I had like a week left. And when no one was looking, I tiptoed up back out in my car and got high and drove away.
Oh, wow.
And I had 100 missed phone calls from the manager.
Yeah.
I think I had one more paycheck there for like $60. I said I didn't even go back.
Yeah.
How can you go back? So, but no, I've never had like a big like FU to everybody moment.
No, I never had that either. But the first job, I've only had 3 jobs, but the first job,
That's crazy.
the first job I had when I moved out here, my ride's here. I was the first guy that said that. Came up with that. My ride's here.
Good. Yeah, good.
But no, my first job when I moved out here was I worked at a coffee shop on the Upper West Side that was down the street from me called Bluestone Lane.
Yeah.
It's a chain of coffee shops. They originated in Australia, mate.
Jesus Christ.
And I kept getting scheduled. I had only worked there for like a month, and I had kept getting the person that hired me quit like 2 days, like a week after I got hired. And then I never met the other manager. I never saw the other manager.
Right.
So I kept getting scheduled like before anybody else would get there. So I didn't have a key or anything. So I just had to wait outside for somebody else to show up.
That's
and
insane.
And then one of the workers that had the key. She goes, "Why don't you make a copy after work?" I go, "I'm not doing that. It's not my job to make a copy. Go out of my way to make a copy of a key
After work?
What are you, insane?
Yeah.
No, I'm not doing that.
Right.
They should do that." So that was the beginning, and then it was just turmoil after. It was crazy. A bunch of people quit. So one day I go, "That's it. I'm done." I end my shift, and I send the manager who I never met a text saying, "Today was my last day."
I love that. You know it's overrated? The 2 weeks notice. Yeah. Today was my last day. It's great. Yeah.
And she replies back, "Really? You're not giving any notice?" And I never replied again. But luckily, I didn't have to pick up a paycheck. It was all direct deposit.
That would have been nice if I had that set up back then. I think that was, God, was it before the days of direct deposit? I don't know, but it is pretty funny that these people are. I could say because the small town politics are like even more divisive than, and it's like
because they're your neighbor,
exactly. And Peggy Sue's been, but they let anyone do it. So there's like one lady who's shouldn't be there.
Yeah,
and she's like, well, we'll blockade the whole thing. She has nothing but time on her hands.
Yeah,
so she was, she'll do anything to stop one thing from happening.
right.
Because it'll infringe upon her yard or something.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Well, I would quit too.
Yeah. Well, speaking of small towns and quitting jobs, this is from the Wall Street Journal.
Okay.
Ambulances in rural areas can't keep up.
Wow.
Waits can exceed an hour as services close down or travel far to reach patients. Merriman, Nebraska. Dateline. Call 911 in this northwest Nebraska town, and the ambulance responding will likely be coming from South Dakota.
Jesus Lord.
If that crew isn't available, the ambulance might drive from Valentine, Nebraska, 60 miles away in a different time zone. Or from Gordon.
At that point, why don't you just call your neighbor John to come pick you up?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? What do you do?
That's probably what a lot of people do.
Right.
Or from Gordon, where the all volunteer staff includes employees of a grocery store, bank, veterinary office, and a farmer's co-op. Quote, "You're looking at an hour or longer for a response," said Rose Chappell, the last emergency medical technician in Merriman, which had to shut down its ambulance service. This patchwork has become the norm in many parts of America, putting some people at greater risk of death or serious injury as rural residents are getting older and small hospitals are closing. Now,
the perfect storm.
It is a perfect. That's exactly right, Joe. It's a perfect storm.
It's like the movie with George Clooney, The Perfect Storm.
Yes, we're all familiar. It's actually on one of Mabry's movies must sees.
Which we'll go further into that segment after this story.
Now, I don't know exactly. You grew up in Kansas.
Yes.
I'm assuming it's kind of a rural area.
Not really. It was a suburb. It was more of a suburban area than a rural area, but you didn't have to go very far for it to become rural. Now, I did grow up on a 5-acre flower farm with chickens and stuff, but that was kind of out of place in the middle of the suburbs. So I didn't really grow up in the country or anything.
I see. Well, yeah. I did. I grew up in the country.
Right, it shows.
Well, you know what? I take that as a compliment.
Yeah.
And we had the closest ambulance and fire department was a volunteer fire department. It would have taken at least 30 minutes to get to our house. Sure. God forbid anything
You'd have
happened.
to make that call.
Yeah.
Right.
So I can relate to this. Now, Buck Buckles, a rancher, said the Merriman Ambulance Service.
Most rancher name I've ever heard.
The man was born to be a rancher.
He was born to be a rancher.
He's a Merriman. He's a Merriman resident.
He's the other one?
Yeah. They picked him up after he fell off a horse in 2015 at age 74, breaking a shoulder and 7 ribs. Quote, if I had still been laying there waiting for an ambulance to come from Valentine, 75 miles away, or Hyannis, 70 miles away, I might have been dead, he said.
Should have just taken the horse into town.
Yeah, it should be pretty easy. Break your shoulder and 7 ribs. You can
get back up on that thing.
Remount that fucker.
You're a cowboy. Get back on that son
Come
of a bitch.
Buck, you son of a bitch.
Yeah. Or you could lasso. You definitely could do a lasso around its neck and then have it pull you into town while you drag on the ground.
Yeah. You're going to the hospital anyway. What's road rash?
What's one more rib?
Yeah. At least 4.5 million people nationwide live in an ambulance desert, where they are further than a 25-minute drive from an ambulance station, according to a 2023 study. In Nebraska, more than 80% of emergency medical providers are volunteers working in sparsely populated areas where there are too few calls to justify having full-time staff. Quote, I think that the majority of American people do not understand how different it is out there.
Well, here's what I don't understand. Why can't you just have an ambulance at the fire department or the police department? Well, and should anyone need one, do they not have police departments either?
It's all volunteer. The volunteer fire department, volunteer police.
Oh, wow. Volunteer police.
It doesn't really mention police, but it definitely talks about volunteer firemen. I would assume if you don't have police, if you don't have fire department, you probably don't have a lot of police either.
No, I think you have police because I do think that fires are less common than police stuff, right? I don't know. There's no way of knowing.
There's no way of knowing.
Yeah, I don't know. It seems like firemen rarely. It seems like they mostly play poker with like a Dalmatian.
They cook chili.
And they fucking watch football and they throw a football around. There was a fire department in Kansas City on this street. I'd always see it. It's like on the way to this drinking area, Westport. So, I saw it a lot. And but they always had the garage open, and it was just like 6 guys just sitting there, just fucking throwing a football around. And you'd see them, they'd be driving golf balls out of the garage into like a fucking old abandoned house across the street.
Yeah.
It looks like it's like a fraternity.
It is similar to a fraternity, but then God forbid, you get a 4-alarm fire and you lose.
You get CCR playing. Yeah. No, the fire's the most exciting part of the week.
They do
fire
love
a week.
Fire. They do love the fire.
Yeah, they go in there. They don't even put the mask on.
Yeah, that's how they get their rocks off. But I couldn't do it. It'd be a scary job. There's no denying that.
No, yeah, it'd be scary, but it would.
Most state and local governments aren't required to fund ambulance services the way they do law enforcement offices.
There you go.
So, but the police is state funded.
But that's what I'm saying. Why don't they just have one ambulance at the police station, and then if they get a call, they can go grab someone, go pick them up.
We should get Merriman, Nebraska on the line.
Hey, Lou, grab the ambulance, go pick up.
That's a good idea, but
they might need a medic in there. That's the problem.
Well, yeah. More than 55 ambulance providers have closed since December 2021, according to a log of news reports compiled by the American Ambulance Association. As departments close their doors, there is no agency required to step up and fill that gap, said Michael Dwyer, a volunteer firefighter. Ambulance services are funded by a mix of patient bills, donations, taxes, and fees. In some places, emergency medical services are provided by cross-trained firefighters, private companies, or hospital employees. Industry experts say patient bills alone can't cover the cost of providing ambulance services in a rural area, where emergency medical officials might respond to just 100 calls a year, but still require hundreds of thousands of dollars to buy and fuel ambulances. Medicare, a federal health insurance plan for seniors and some people with disabilities, and Medicaid, a joint state and federal program for those with low incomes, typically don't reimburse the full amount charged for an ambulance.
Right.
Though Medicare typically doesn't pay for an ambulance if the patient isn't transported to a hospital, because they can't go spending all their money.
Well, there's so little of it left. I mean, they slash it in half every year after year.
Yeah, that's true.
As the population doubles every year that needs it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just get older and sicker every year.
Quote, "We don't control the calls we get, and we don't deny calls," said Michael Christensen, chief executive officer of the hospital in Martin, South Dakota, 18 miles north of Merriman. "Grandma might have a bruise after falling down the stairs," he said. "A 911 call, the ambulance likely wouldn't be paid for if the woman is treated at the scene." Or, quote, "Grandma might have something horribly wrong. She fell down, banged her head, and has a closed head wound that will kill her in an hour."
Who's grandma?
It's one or the other. Hopefully it's not the abuelita.
Oh, anything but that sweet Mexican grandma.
In Merriman,
listen, there's a couple of ways this could shake out with grandma. She could fall down, have a closed head wound. She could get shot in the head.
Or she might just have a bruise.
She might just have a bruise. Either
way, she'll either live another 50 years or she'll die in an hour. There's really no way of knowing.
So why staff an ambulance?
In Merriman, Chappell said she joined the town's ambulance service in the early 2000s when it had a crew of about 10 people. Over time, some of the Merriman ambulance volunteers grew old. Others moved away. You'll never believe this. Younger residents didn't sign up.
That's perplexing.
By 2017, the service was down,
following their dreams.
By 2017, the service was down to Chappell and one other emergency medical technician. He resigned. Chappell was uncomfortable with answering calls by herself. The ambulance went into storage. It hasn't responded to 911 calls in more than 5 years.
Wow. Here's what they need to do. Self-driving ambulances. Boom. They just put all the technology for that into just the ambulances.
But then when they show up, what happens? They just have just have an ambulance there.
Yeah.
And
you'd at least get an ambulance there. And at that point, you gotta get yourself in it.
Yeah.
Listen, we can only do so much.
Well, you're right. Exactly right.
Yeah. Listen, Grandma, we can get you an ambulance.
Yeah.
Could you get in it?
It's like the
I'll try. That's good.
Yeah. It's like the self-checkout at grocery stores.
You crawl into it, and then when you're ready for it to drive, you go. You just slam on the floor.
Yeah.
Two big slams.
Right.
And then it starts going. It starts driving with the doors open behind you. You're laying face down. The doors are open behind you, swinging on the highway.
Yeah.
I think it's better than what we got now.
Quite frankly, I think it's the only solution.
If they had Uber drivers in San Francisco that were self-driving or whatever the fuck it was, why can't we have one ambulance in Ainsworth, Nebraska? I mean, there's no one else on the road. Even if it flies off the road, it's like, whatever, Grandma would have died anyway.
Yeah, you're right.
You know what I mean?
At least we made the attempt.
Yeah. I say self-driving ambulances, Grandma has to crawl in the back.
That's the only solution I've heard so far.
Yeah, well, wow. Okay. So, God, we are so good at solving the world's problems. This podcast,
I hope somebody's listening.
Yeah, well, who knows? But we solve a ton of problems on here. Now, there's one guy, Trent, that has been riddled with problems, but he doesn't need any of them solved because he's got it all taken care of.
Thank God.
And that's our guy, Newman. Newman, Newman set to profit. Yeah, exactly. This is from the Wall Street
Hello,
Journal. Newman, that's Neumann, set to profit again as WeWork fails again.
Yeah, I thought that failed like 3 years ago.
Every time they go under, he gets richer. It's crazy. He's a genius. WeWork created a lot of financial losers. Adam Newman wasn't one of them. The shared office space company's co-founder and former chief executive left WeWork 4 years ago as a billionaire, thanks to large stock sales and a lucrative exit package. He really set himself up nice. Now, with WeWork in bankruptcy and his remaining shares near worthless, there is a potential for further financial gain for Newman.
Wow.
Worth hundreds of millions of dollars. You see, Trent, in late 2019, SoftBank, which is a bank, committed billions. I wasn't just calling it bank soft. SoftBank committed billions, although boy have they gone soft because of this. Committed billions of dollars to bail out WeWork after the office company's failed attempt at an initial public offering left it low on cash and heavy on losses. Newman was ousted by the company's board, but before he surrendered control of the company he co-founded, he negotiated significant concessions and payments from SoftBank. One concession was a roughly $430 million loan from SoftBank to Newman that had a key feature. Newman wasn't personally on the hook for paying it back. Instead, if he stopped paying, SoftBank would be able to seize his shares in WeWork as collateral. Okay, but the value of that collateral has plummeted. With WeWork's stock price near zero, Newman's WeWork shares are currently valued at a measly $4 million, down from about $500 million in the fall of 2021, according to FactSet, which...
500 million to 4 million.
That's right.
That is a giant.
SoftBank executives worry that Newman might elect to simply walk away with the money he was lent and hand over the shares. People familiar with the situation said, "Yeah, I mean, I don't think he would do that. He's given us no reason to think that he's just out to be a profiteer.
Yeah, he'd have to be a douchebag to do that.
To be a lone profiteer." Pardon my.
That's okay.
It continues from page 1 to here on page 7.
Okay.
All right, this is really hard. We should really go digital with this. Okay. This is continued from page 1. Let's see where I left off here. SoftBank doesn't explicitly disclose the size of the loan, but a person familiar with the situation details that Newman still owed hundreds of million dollars after he paid some of it back in 2022. But again, he could walk if he wants to. Far more investors, businesses, and employees stand to be hurt by the bankruptcy than gain. WeWork has said it would seek to cancel between 500 and 100 leases, leaving dozens of landlords with no rent. Aww. Not the landlords. Many of WeWork's tenants will likely have to scramble and find new office space. Not the tenants. WeWork stock is worth a fraction of what it was in 2021 when the company went public through a merger with a bank check company. But by far the biggest loser in WeWork is SoftBank. The company put more than $10 billion into WeWork under Newman, only to double down when he was ousted in 2019. Guaranteed up to $5 billion in new debt and brought more shares in the then private company. The bankruptcy threatens to wipe out most of that debt and all the remainder of its investments.
Won't someone think of SoftBank?
Yeah, the biggest losers in this. The company has now lost more than $14 billion and roughly $16 billion to put it into WeWork through loans and investment. SoftBank said its quarterly earnings. That's what they said Thursday. Japanese conglomerate lost more than $6 billion in the 3 months through September because of the decline in WeWork holding and other startup investments. So, anyway, pour one out for SoftBank because no one
They're on hard times.
They're on hard times, much like Katy Perry was last week. Yeah.
Wow. WeWork.
But good for Newman. He really... talk about an American businessman, because the the line between like con man and like successful businessman,
It's nearly invisible.
it's nearly invisible. Take it from our former president. I mean, we celebrate both, really.
Yeah.
And he came up with the fucking bullshit tech company, overvalued the fuck out of it, wrote himself an exit strategy that made him rich.
Yeah.
He said, "Oh, you're right. I've screwed up. I'll leave." And then he somehow has more tricks up his sleeve.
Right. Yeah.
He's a friend of the show, and he's
He's a
welcome.
friend of the show. Welcome anytime.
Yeah. That's all I have to say about that.
It's a level of greed that would make Gordon Gekko roll in his grave. Anyway, well, speaking of brilliant, this guy, he's a former economist. He's now the president-elect of Argentina.
Oh, wow.
This is from the Wall Street Journal.
Once a communist, always a communist.
Wild-haired populist rocks Argentina. Economist who vows to upend institutions is seen finishing first in Sunday's election. Now, it's important to note this is a little old. He was elected the president-elect of Argentina.
Right. That's what's a man.
Yes. Dateline, Buenos Aires.
Buenos Aires.
Javier Milei,
Over there.
high-powered chainsaw in hand,
What?
to demonstrate how he will carve up Argentina's establishment. Doesn't
That guy looks like a
sugarcoat.
madman. That fucking rips, dude.
Yeah, he's got a chainsaw in hand to demonstrate how he's going to carve up Argentina's establishment.
Yeah, that's not...
He doesn't sugarcoat what he would do if elected president on Sunday. He was elected.
Doesn't give me pause for concern at all that the president chainsaw in his hand.
The self-styled libertarian pledges to lay waste to the country's institutions and to
Jesus
the
Christ.
career politicians of all political stripes he calls, quote, useless parasites who form, quote, a political caste that must be excised.
Wait, so he's a former communist turned libertarian?
No, I don't know where you got communist.
Oh, I thought I heard communist. I'm sorry.
Economist.
Economist. Oh, God. So it's quite the contrary.
Yes.
Yikes.
The caste is trembling, he says. This is no time for nice words and good manners.
So he's just going to get rid of every government agency?
Well, that's something that's happening all over the world. Is people are sick of the old guard. They want to change things up.
It just worked for so long.
Well, I don't know if it's worked though. That's why people are
Right.
sick of it.
Sure.
But I don't know if this is the answer.
I really don't think it is. You'd be shocked to see just how worse things can get. You'd always be shocked to know that as annoyed as you
Yeah.
might be,
Yeah.
it could be unbelievably worse.
Yeah.
Dark Ages worse.
Milei is stirring supporters and unsettling opponents the way populist left-wing politicians have done from Colombia to Mexico. But he is a far different type of politician from most in Latin America. A self-described anarcho-capitalist
Jesus.
who is not promising more public spending, but the exact opposite. Milei turns 53 on the day of the vote and says he purposely goes for the messy look with his hair, not combing it, and letting it get messed up by rolling down the windows of his car.
He's an anarchist.
Yeah,
He's an
but all
anarcho-capitalist.
these people, they're all obsessed with their hair as well.
That's interesting. Yeah.
It's all...
Well, they're megalomaniacs.
Yeah.
It all starts with the hair.
He
His
is.
former business partner just had a huge deal with WeWork. Made out like a bandit.
Oh, really?
Bit of an anarcho-capitalist himself.
He has tapped into public disillusionment after years of economic mismanagement by the once potent movement, the Peronist, under whose watch inflation has hit 138%.
Jesus Lord.
Poverty rose to 40%, and workers in the large informal sector have lost a third of their purchasing power in 4 years.
That's insane.
Yeah.
You know, that's when these guys get elected, is when things are in utter turmoil.
Utter chaos.
And they
yeah.
go, we need a fucking madman to come at the helm here.
Exactly. Things are mad, and that requires a madman.
Moderates never thrive.
Yeah. Milei opposes abortion, has said that he would support.
Okay, so maybe he is reasonable. I'm just kidding. Just a little joke.
Yeah, just a little joke.
Trent and I love abortion.
Yeah, we love him.
Should be more.
He's said he would support creating a market to buy and sell organs. That is why the chainsaw comes in handy.
That fucking rules.
And
this guy's insane.
And doesn't believe climate change is man-made. His government,
obviously,
he says, would break ties with communist regimes, including China, a major trade partner, and close the central bank, as well as some government ministries.
Shut it all down!
Milei shuns political norms, storming on stage like the rock and roll frontman he once was.
Oh my!
He calls the public sector He calls the public sector, quote, a cancer, and says paying taxes is an act of violence. Of leftists who have ruled Argentina for much of the past 2 decades and govern all large Latin American countries, he declares, quote, I detest them.
Jesus Christ.
Born in Buenos Aires, Milei has never married and refers to his dogs, English Mastiffs, as his 4-legged children.
What?
He was a reserve goalie for a local professional soccer club, Chacarita.
What the?
In his teens, played in Everest, a band that covered Rolling Stones hits. And he doesn't shy away from discussing his sex life.
Okay.
Including how he was a coach of tantric sex, a practice developed in India hundreds of years ago. Quote, it's super intense, he said.
Spoken like a guy who was in a Rolling Stones cover band. Sex rocks.
Yeah.
Taxes don't.
Quote, society is divided in two, he said. Those who break our backs and pay taxes, and on the other side, the parasites that live off taxes. It deeply irritates me.
You know, the most educated people always divide society in two. That's the first conclusion you come to, is that it's really just comes down to two groups. Two monoliths, one might say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Juan Carvajal, a 48-year-old who lives in a poor barrio without running water on the outskirts of Buenos Aires, had voted for Peronist candidates, but not this time. Quote, I've never heard anyone say what he says. He's different from other politicians.
So the guy that lives in the town without running water loves the guy who says taxes are a cancer. You know what taxes do? Nothing at all. Although, to be fair, if I was living in a town that didn't have running water and I was paying taxes, I would go, what's the point? The government's clearly just pocketing all of it. I mean, that's the thing. If the government is just pocketing all of the taxes.
Yeah, exactly.
The problem isn't taxing people. It's probably just mismanaging
Right.
all
So
the
give
money.
me the guy that fucking sings Start Me Up and has sex for 4 hours a day.
Holds a fucking chainsaw and is going to mow down the institutions that be. Starting with communism.
Call me crazy, but I'm voting for him.
Well, I hope it works out for them, to be honest.
Me too, and I guess we'll see because he was elected.
You know
And
what
he's
else?
a friend of the show, and he's welcome anytime.
He is anytime. And that goes to any president anywhere.
Exactly.
We love presidents. You know who else was a tantric sex guy?
Who?
The guy who played Barney. Barney the dinosaur.
Is this a real story, or is this some sort of nasty internet rumor?
No, it's a real story. Yeah, he did.
Really?
It's tantric sex healing. People would pay the guy who played Barney in the 90s, and he would do private classes.
Now, Barney, I believe he was a black man, right?
He was a black man, yes.
A black man.
He was a black man. He was a friend of the show, and he's welcome
anytime.
More than any time.
We should get a tantric sex expert on here.
That would be nice. Yeah, I don't know what it is. It's like something about it's like your chakras and your orgasms and your tits get hard. But I think that your clit's involved too, and maybe your cock.
Well, one of those things I believe in.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna say which one,
right.
but yeah, I don't know. It's something to do with the Kama Sutra. It's all in India.
They really have
They love it over there.
They fucking have a hard on over there.
That's why the population's so big.
Oh my god,
They're fucking left and right
for
hours.
They are horny people. I don't want to stereotype, but some of the horniest people I've ever heard of or met in my life. So anyway, well, that's fascinating, and I wish Argentina the best of luck.
We're rooting for him.
We're rooting for him. I mean, obviously, there's not going to be any new running water.
No.
Because you're not paying any taxes. But at least you'll save a little bit of money for the taxes that you were throwing away before.
Exactly. Yeah.
To maybe
get a bottle.
Get a Brita filter.
Well, maybe a bottled water salesman will come knocking on your door.
A bottled water salesman, yeah. Well, Trent, that takes us to our last story. Mm-hmm. And as always on the show, we like to end on a sort of upbeat, positive story.
Yes.
It's kind of what we're known for.
We like to. Sometimes it doesn't always work out.
It doesn't always work out. In fact, most of the time, it doesn't work out that way. If we took all of 5 seconds to organize the stories, perhaps they wouldn't be. But no, I think there's some funny parts in this, maybe. Or it's just really sad. But this is from the Wall Street Journal. Headline, Loneliness Tied to Death Risk, Study Finds. So if you thought being lonely was bad enough, it's actually much worse.
Yeah.
It's much worse than you could imagine. If you think canceling plans is always good self-care, you might want to think again, Trent. Because people who keep an active social calendar not only enjoy a better quality of life, they could also stave off an early trip to the goddamn grave.
Wow.
Yeah. Loneliness and social isolation were linked to an increased risk of death from any cause, according to a new research.
Death from any cause.
Yeah, so again, this is correlation, not causation.
And we've learned that correlation does not equal causation.
But it's really close. Yeah, I'm not an expert, but I think it's like the the equal signs that are like wavy. It's like kind of equals. Yeah, sort of equals. It's around there. So yeah. Well, anyway, loneliness and social isolation were linked to an increased risk of death from any cause, according to new research. That includes missing out on seeing loved ones. Oh, I think they're saying any cause of loneliness. That includes missing out on seeing loved ones, not having weekly group activities like a book club.
Does it really say book club?
Yeah.
Apparently, they don't read their own paper.
They don't read their own paper. We're the only one who reads the entire paper. Book club or just often feeling lonely. Health officials are taking notice. Surgeon General Dr. Vivek Murthy put out an advisory report on loneliness and social isolation in May, citing research that suggests lacking social connection could be as dangerous as smoking up to 15 cigarettes a day.
Wow.
Pretty wild. Also, why is it that when anything is bad, they have to come up with a number of cigarettes of how bad it is?
Yeah, that's true.
When we had the smog from the wildfires, they go, it's like 7 cigarettes a day out there.
Yeah, you're right.
It's like 9 cigarettes a day.
Yeah.
Also, 15 cigarettes a day. I have no idea. That could be 15, 30. It's all the same. Like, which one's...
Well, I know. And then smoking 15 packs of cigarettes a day is equal to 3 9/11s. Every terrorist, attack,
right.
They have to do it at number of 9/11s.
Number of 9/11s, packs of cigarette smokes. Yeah. Well,
this is not good though, because if we've learned anything, is that young people, they don't leave the house.
Well, not just young people, but everybody since the pandemic who's not like doing something to be thrust out of the house is by and large not going out and doing anything like they used to.
Yeah.
And probably I would safely wager that there's been an uptick of loneliness across the globe, across the board in the last 3 years. So, guys, get out of the house, join a book club, fucking have small talk with somebody you've never talked to before.
Right.
Go out and fucking do a trivia night. Something's got to give here. The researchers looked at 5 measures for loneliness and isolation. Often feeling lonely. That's the first one. Okay. Not being able to confide in a close companion. Now, that's a huge metric right there.
Sure.
Living alone. Yeah, which could be very lonely.
We'll never have to worry about that.
Yeah, not in this city. Yeah. If anything, that number's going way up. How often people visit with friends and family, and weekly group activities. All of them had an impact. The strongest link for people who were never the strongest link was for people who were never visited by family and friends.
Well, that's a thing that doesn't happen anymore. when I was young, my dad and I would get you want to go see your cousins, and we'd hop in the truck, and then we would just show up unannounced.
Oh yeah,
He'd knock on the door.
That was our house.
Yeah.
My uncle would people would just pull in the driveway.
Yeah.
And there was no announcement. I mean, literally all the time, almost every other day, someone was just pulling in the driveway, and an uncle or somebody would hop out and say, "Hey kid, your dad around?"
Yeah.
And I'd go find them or whatever, you know what I mean? But there was always just somebody. No one fucking called my dad and said they were coming over. His drinking buddy Fritzy pulled in about 3 times a day. And my stepmom would chase him off with a broom.
But yeah, we used to do that and spend hours upon hours at the house.
Fritzy kept him alive.
If you even attempted that now, the cops would be called. You'd be looked at as an insane person.
Yeah, you go to visit a family member, even a good friend, and you knock on the door. They go. They would go.
First of all,
they would turn you away, and then they go back in and they go. He's got no regard for.
Yeah.
He just showed up.
Yeah.
Just knocked on our door.
Yeah, it's crazy how quickly things have changed.
Back in the day, you just show up somewhere in time for dinner, and
they
go, "Oh, mom, make another plate." Uncle Jerry's.
They call it the pop-in.
I love a pop-in.
Nobody does the pop-in anymore.
If someone popped in here, I'd shoot him with a gun.
I would be irate.
I'd be pissed.
You ruined my fucking whole day. That's not what I wanted to do all day.
Yeah, but it's stopping us from death. We gotta get back to it.
We do.
People, quote, people can have different preferences on how they want to socialize, researchers said. And the number of social connections someone has isn't always an end goal in itself. The quality of those relationships is what matters. Quote, it is someone that is going to be there even if nothing is needed, will sit with you. You can be comfortable because you have complete trust in them. Said Louise Hockley, a health and loneliness researcher at NORC at the University of Chicago, who wasn't involved in the study. Who becomes a loneliness researcher?
A very sad soul.
Her husband said, "Honey, I'm leaving you. It's to help with your research." I just feel like there's something stopping you from learning more about loneliness, and I'm going to push you the extra mile.
I just don't want to hinder your career.
I want you to be the best in the field. So I am going to leave you. And in fact, I've slept with your friend Jessica to really dial it up.
Yeah. Wow.
So loneliness. It'll kill you. It'll kill you.
That's why we urge all of our listeners to join our Reddit forum. There's
Trent and Joe Save America.
We're building over there.
Yeah.
So
it's an awesome community.
Yeah, if you're feeling lonely.
If you're feeling lonely, nothing shakes off loneliness like Reddit. And
I find it to be wildly uplifting.
YouTube comment section.
Yeah, the YouTube.
So they didn't write that in the article, but I don't think that any of that shit would count. I think you need in-person.
No, you need to get out.
In-person interaction out of your apartment somewhere else doing something.
Yes.
Perhaps becoming a fan of a football team.
Perhaps.
Or wrestling.
Going to the park.
To people watch.
But that's also kind of an isolating activity. So,
or to feed the birds. No, that's pretty isolating too.
Yeah, jeez.
You can go to the museum by yourself. No, it's kind of hard to thinking of anything. Yeah. You know what would be easiest? To stay in and throw a movie on.
On your new flat screen Ultra HD television that you bought from Best Buy.
Who could feel lonely surrounded by Heath Ledger's stunning performance as the Joker in The Dark Knight? That's what I do to shake off the loneliness.
Yeah. Well, maybe they could go to a singles mixer or a game night.
Singles mixer or game night.
But we're not here to solve every issue, just most.
Just really today, only the ambulance issue is the one that we solved.
The ambulance issue, yes. But that's better than nothing.
If you have 6 problems and you solve one, I think you're doing pretty good as a podcast.
I like to think so.
So if you live in a small town, why don't you write to your elected official and say, hey, we've got a great solution to the ambulance problem. We listened to Echo Chamber with Joe and Trent, and what if we just had a self-driving ambulance, and as long as Grandma could get in the back of it herself, smack the floor twice, it drives away. then at least you're saving a few lives, maybe not
Yeah,
all of them.
then
but-
you're as good as gravy. By the way, Echo Chamber, very funny podcast. You should check it out. Thank you.
Oh,
Bye. That was the end of the letter.
oh, okay. That was the end of the letter.
That was a PS.
Yes, right. I thought you were rapidly trying. I thought you had to take
Oh,
a shit
no,
really
no,
bad.
no.
Yeah, okay.
I was finishing the end of the letter.
I love that. Yeah. Also, tell your elected officials.
Yeah, tell your local legislators to check out our podcast.
You know what drives me crazy is when, and we won't get, I don't want to go on a whole tirade
Sure,
here,
yeah.
but we have lots of friends. We know a lot of people who
I know what you
make posts about, things, political issues that are happening, which I'm not knocking that. I'm not knocking that if you want to support or be vocal about a political issue. But then there's people who always do this. This is a gripe of mine. They go call your elected official, like people I know. And I'm like, every time I'm like, there's a net 0% chance that you did that. The odds that you did that are there's no way that you did. I got friends that go call your elected official and tell them about call my elected official. What are you crazy? What are you crazy? I don't even know where to begin.
Yeah.
Yeah, that seems like thanks for telling me, guy I know from the open mic.
Yeah, I'd love to hear the voicemail you left him. Yeah.
No fucking way these people are
there's
calling
not a
it
chance.
anybody. Not a
But
chance.
if you post about it, it's as good as doing it.
I urge all of my Instagram followers to call your local.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's going on. Anyway,
But
call your local legislators.
legislator.
Tell them to listen to the podcast. It's fixing the world one episode at a time.
Of course, your local legislator may have quit publicly, so you may not have a local legislator.
Yeah,
but if they
exactly.
haven't quit in a really dramatic way, but yeah. Anyway, that is, I think, pretty much the pod.
I
here.
think that just about wraps it up.
just about. Let us know what you think of the map again. It's
The
pretty
map,
good.
the chairs, the table.
It's all from Wayfair, friends of the show.
Welcome anytime.
Anytime.
That's it. That's the show. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, review, all that.
You always go first, but go ahead.
I'm Trent Mabry signing off.
And I'm Joe Nunnink, signing out.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.